I'm Rachel and welcome to my channel. My channel's a little bit of books, a little bit of Disney, a little bit of parenting, and a few other bits and bobs as well. And today is book day! Okay, so today I want to talk about two books that I've just read. When the Curtain Falls by Carrie Hope Fletcher. That. And The Polka Dot Shop by Laurel Remington. Both books are really good. It kind of complement each other, so I'm quite glad that I read them one after the other because they work really well together, and it means I can put them together in this vlog. They work well. So the first book that I wanted to talk about was Carrie Hope Fletcher one. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll know that I was reading it. I stopped for the new J.K. Rowling and then I went back to it because I had to know what happened. So the premise of the book is that that a new production, theatre production, is about to start. That's based on a musical play, I think it is, play that was written quite back in the 50s, and that the actress who was playing the lead in that play died during the performance, and this will be, I think it's the first time that they've revamped it and are going to redo it in that same theatre. So the main girl, her name is Olive Green, and she plays the star of the show, which is the character that the previous actress who died played. And then there is Oscar, who is like a TV, I think soap opera, I think it was, kind of hunk guy who is going into the theatre to basically try and prove to everyone that he's a proper actor. I'm really sure if you hear coughing, that's Pete upstairs, just coughing his guts out. Bless him, he's had this cold for like a week now. And hopefully he'll be over by the wedding. But anyway, he plays the sort of, he plays like the love interest in the play, and obviously the love interest in the book. The book is really good, but when it starts, almost like there's sort of two books. So you've got the Olive and Oscar storyline, which is very reality based, basically the inner workings of the theatre, inner workings of what it's like to put on a West End show, and it's all like really interesting and very just kind of contemporary adult novel type thing. Then you have another storyline, which is what happened back in the 50s, with the main girl and Walter, who was like the person she fell in love with, but who unfortunately was not the person she was supposed to fall in love with. And you discover that Walter, who was young, I think like early 20s back then, is an old man now and still working in the theatre, and he's basically the character that kind of bridges the gap between these, between the two storylines, but also between reality and the supernatural element, which I thought was really interesting. I didn't know how she was going to do that because, like I said, it just seems like just a normal, standard, like good but standard story. But at the same time, I knew in the back of my head from reading the back of the book that they were at some point going to be talking about the sort of ghost aspect of this theatre being haunted. And they kind of discuss in the beginning, but like I said, not with Olive or Oscar. The way she sort of brings it together. I don't know if you've heard of when they call do they call it? They call it, was it magic realism or something like that. So instead of being like Harry Potter type fantasy, it's more sort of everything just normal, the way the world is, and then you get just like this sort of sprinkling of the supernatural in there, and that's the way she's done it, and it's so good. And it's just sort of that thing you could almost imagine in almost any West End theatre that you were to walk into, that it could have a story like this story behind it, like you could just imagine it so easily. So yeah, I really loved this book. I really recommend it. It's a really easy read, because you just have to know. You just have to know where it's going. The characters are good. They're not hugely like in-depth, big character profile type things like sometimes you get books that are real, you know, they'd have to be a lot bigger than this. But that way you get these really sort of long essays on what the characters are like. They are more just sort of characters that you don't need the long big essay to know what the character's like, because they are just characters that could be you or your friends or people you grew up with, which makes it a lot easier, like very relatable. And yeah, it's a good one basically. I highly recommend it. So that's that one. The second book, which I read after that one, after reading that one, previous to that I've read a lot of crime fiction, and normally I save sort of contemporary fiction for over summertime, but I was reading so much crime fiction all the way through summer that I've kind of pushed back my normal reading pattern, we'll say. So I just wanted something else that was a bit lighter and not back into some of the crime books that I have sitting upstairs that I need to read. So I went with this one, the Polka Dot Shop. This one I got as a proof. I wasn't sure what to expect from it, but it exceeded all expectations. Like, I was in a real, you know when sometimes you finish a book, so I finished this one and I'd read the J.K. Rowling before that, and I just wasn't sure what to start. I was in like a real kind of funky mood. I had obviously a lot of busy stuff coming up in the next few weeks, so I wasn't even going to be sure how much time I could actually dedicate to reading. So I wasn't quite sure, but I knew I wanted to read something because I kind of go a bit stir crazy if I don't have a book to read. And I had sort of like all these options of other things that had been laying around for a while that I wanted to get to, but in the end I just kind of, I caught out of the corner of my eye this one which I'd bought home really recently, and within probably about 2 pages I was like, yes, right choice. This is exactly the book that I wanted to follow up this one with. So yeah, actually, Carrie Hope Fletcher, if you're out there, read this one. I think you'd really like it. They kind of have a similar feel. You almost feel like the girl Andy in this is almost like a bit of a kind of younger Olive type thing. You could almost imagine Carrie Hope Fletcher writing this book. But she didn't. It was Laurel Remington, and it's just really good. So it's 9 to 12 fiction, though the girl in it is actually 13. But like I said, if you've seen my video where I talk about that kind of grey area or the grey spot in children's fiction, which is sort of for younger teens and how most of it's kind of kept in the 9 to 12 section, this is a really good book to add to that list. I will link the other video for you because somewhere because yeah, it's just the perfect addition to that list. It's about a girl named Andy who it's set in the UK, and her school, you might know or might not know that schools in Britain wear uniforms, and her school decides that they're not going to wear uniforms anymore so that the children can express themselves. Andy is horrified by this because although she really loves fashion, she can't afford to buy any of the latest fashions really, and also on top of that, her mum owns a clothing store, we'll call it, called Eliza's Emporium, which is supposed to be a vintage boutique, but is more kind of being run a bit like a kind of charity shop, thrift shop, that type of thing, with just kind of junk clothes, lots of clothes with holes in it and things like that. The clothes are all sold off really, really cheap. Her mum loves fashion and will find something that she can sort of mend and fix up, and she'll take the time to do it and then still only charge like £3 for it. So, you know, it's just kind of people just kind of donate to her shop literally just junk, and her mum is kind of too nice really to basically say, no, I don't want this. She's like, oh, I'll take it, I'll have the home for all the old clothes that nobody wants. And Andy just cannot handle it. She doesn't like the smell of the shop because it smells like old clothes. She doesn't like the fact that her mum just constantly brings her home secondhand clothes all the time, including secondhand shoes and secondhand underwear. Bless her. She's just kind of, the shop is also, because her mum won't throw out any of the clothes, there's just so many clothes on a rack. Like, we've all been into, I've seen like one of those stores where it's just, you can't see for looking. Like, you go in and it's just like, you can't even see what's on the racks. There's just too much. That's basically what the store is like. So Andy, sort of through sort of chance and circumstance and a whole bunch of bits and things that happen, ends up by, and with the help of her aunt, ends up by sending her mum away to go visit her aunt, and she redoes the shop. And that is all I'm going to tell you about the plot. It's really good. It deals with some really sort of interesting issues. It deals with things like parent death, but not in a incredibly like sad way. You know what I mean? Like, there are characters who have had their parents die, but it was quite a long time ago, so it's showing that there are still always going to be repercussions, but kind of the life after. It deals with some mental health issues. Andy's mum is suffering from depression, and I think they portray it really, Laurel, the writer, portrays it really realistically. And I think Andy's reaction to it is also quite realistic as well, which is really good. There's also another character who's in a wheelchair, who needs to relearn to walk, which is a really good storyline. She's like one of Andy's best friends, and it's also jealousy is another thing that kind of gets dealt with quite a bit, not just in a kind of like a love interest type way. Andy gets quite jealous of one of the women who's a fashion student who works in her mum's shop, because she feels like that this girl is more the daughter that her mum wishes she had, as opposed to Andy, which is sort of something that I think, I mean, maybe people can relate to. I know I can relate to that. I get sort of, you know, well, not quite jealous, but I do know growing up that my mum's had certain friends over the years, and I'm like, oh, she listens to them more than she listens to me. And that's a bit kind of how Andy feels, because you're always kind of like, oh, you're a kid, which can be quite frustrating. And that's, again, how Andy feels when she's trying to tell her mum, like, you need to put the prices up, you need to get rid of the junk in the shop, you need to make it so that people can actually see what you're selling, things like that. It is a really good, quite, for all that it's got sort of these deeper issues and undercurrents, it's quite just like a light, fun book, quite a good, easy read, and it's just, you kind of finish the book and are like, okay, what can I conquer? That's actually how it makes you feel. It's very inspiring. So yeah, so I highly recommend this one as well. So yeah, so those are the 2 books. If you've read them, please let me know what your thoughts on them were, just in the comments below. And let me know what else you're reading. I always like to know what people are reading. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!